Welcome back, you guys, to Woodward Wolverines, the college football show where we talk all things Michigan football. So you know that we are definitely going to dive into this tough matchup between Michigan and USC. But to begin, my name is Haley Scott, and I'm joined with Justin Satawa and Ryan Glinsky. Guys, how are you feeling?
Little depressed. I mean, that was not a normal Michigan showing. I'm curious to get Ryan's thoughts on it because I've seen his reaction already to some of this Michigan thing that you want to call the Sherrone more like hot seat issue. The way that when Martindale was coaching, just an overall heaping pile of things that we're about to get into. Ryan, what do you think, man? I'm interested because I already kind of know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I had massive crash out if you watched the watch party with Nick and I on Saturday.
Also hilarious in the cowboy hat. You were rocking your version of the Sherrone
Saw
blue
that.
jacket. Like that was you in the cowboy hat. You were in. I don't know. Can you explain that? Like what
So
was with the cowboy hat? Like we were not even playing like Texas or anything.
that was exact what Haley just did with the hook on. I was watching the Red River rivalry before I left, and I was like, dude, I want to rock a cowboy hat. So I just wore the cowboy hat just because of that simple game that I watched. Everyone was wearing them, and I live by this one motto: life is better in a cowboy hat. So I thought, Michigan wearing a cowboy hat, life's gonna be pretty good. Then the game goes on, and it just gets worse, 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 and worse and worse. We actually got some super chats about me in a cowboy hat, so shout out to those people. But no, I am severely depressed by this Michigan team. That showing sucked. That drive home was really sad, and I'm about done with Michigan football because they're not making the playoff at this point, and all my hope is just gone right now.
See, I do think that's a little aggressive, Ryan. I cannot lie to you. Like I know that they have two losses right now, but like they still completely do control their own destiny, including they obviously have that matchup at the end of the year with Ohio State that can define everything. But from here to there is a cakewalk. They control their entire destiny moving forward. You got to think, and my dad's saying in the chat, the offensive line, the blocking, the tackling, the toughness, the execution. But those are the type of things that waver when you go cross country and you go play a team on the West Coast. And I want to chalk it up more to that. I watched the game for a second time a couple hours ago, and just to like get another feel of it. And I didn't feel like Michigan really got outplayed that bad. The turning point of the game was the 3rd and 17, huge run, and then the swing with the last 2 minutes of each quarter, the touchdown to end the first half by USC, and then the early touchdown to go up 21-7. At that point, Michigan's offense just hasn't been built to withstand that type of lead. And you saw it. They completely struggled in the second half. I thought Bryce Underwood, outside of the interception, didn't necessarily play bad. He made a lot of great throws in that game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that second half was tough, especially because Justice Haynes unfortunately left us in the first quarter. And
Brutal loss, too.
yeah, I mean, he's a star player, of course, and his health is still up in the air for this next game. But just to start off, I mean, a big spotlight was on Sherrone Moore as he's been absent. He was suspended for the Central Michigan and Nebraska game with Biff Poggi as the interim head coach for those two games. And a big question going into this one was, will we see any changes in Sherrone Moore's coaching style? How has his absence affected the team? Or has it affected it at all? Or are we doing just fine with Biff Poggi? What did you get from this game with Sherrone Moore?
I personally think that this team looks like they're more dialed in and on the details and the little things when Biff Poggi was coaching. I don't know what it is that Sherrone Moore has been doing when the team has been under his leadership, but it's not the way that this Michigan team is used to being ran. This is a team that in the past doesn't miss tackles. Like you saw Ohio State go to the West Coast and play Washington a couple weeks ago. They did not look like they were playing on the West Coast. They were fully ready, fully loaded to go. They didn't miss tackles. They didn't do all those little things that Michigan didn't do in this game in particular. Michigan, however, doesn't look like that type of team. They were missing tackles. They were giving up easy completions to Mayava, and their downfield passing game completely hurt them on offense. The fact that they were not able to manufacture plays downfield hurt them a ton, and they were able to do it in that Nebraska game, and that's why they were able to hang so many points on them to get that victory. This USC game, that offense looked stale. It looked like, and it's the way that you saw, like, you can run screens. I know we've harped on it all season about the screens. They're overutilizing screens. You saw how to use screens with Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley showed you the way that you get your playmakers into space to use screens, but they only work if you have some type of downfield passing attack. And that's what Jaden Mailava gave to USC, which gave them the advantage over Michigan in this game.
USC did what Michigan was supposed to do in this game. Carry it 36 times for 224, 2 touchdowns, runs of 49 yards, 47 yards, and 29.
Absolutely.
That was supposed to be what Michigan was supposed to do in this game, but it was USC. I think they totally dominated in carries and runs, and Michigan had like the worst rush defense that they've had this season, in my opinion, so far. And like I was harping on earlier, the absence of Justice Haynes definitely made a huge difference. I feel like once he was out, there was a big loss of hope. But going back to Sherrone Moore, another topic of conversation on his end was his outfit choice in the press conference after the game. He chose to wear some sort of blue collar jacket with his name printed on the badge. He explained that it was some part of message to his team saying, go back to work after their tough loss to USC this past weekend. He said the message is pretty simple. We got to go back to work. That's why I have the blue collar jacket on. And people are calling him a clown for this outfit choice. People are taking it very unseriously and saying that he needs to focus on his actual coaching style instead of his outfit choice. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I can't lie. The barrage of memes that were made because of the workman jacket was pretty elite by the college football trolling fan base. However, this is one of those, like, pick your spots, man. Like, pick a better time. Like, you didn't need to do this. Like, I love when a coach just goes up there and said, we didn't have it today. We're going to go back. We're going to fix our mistakes, and we're going to play better. I don't need you to come out wearing a workman jacket saying, oh, yeah, we're blue collar. We're going to get to work. I don't like. And Neil said something to me today, and I kind of vibe with it. You can't be corny and not be good. If you're going to be corny, you have to be good. And right now, Sherrone Moore hasn't been good. He is 11-7 in his tenure at Michigan, 9-7 if you don't count the 2 Ohio State wins. I mean, there's got to be some level of actual blue collar because this team isn't blue collar at the moment. You saw the way that the offensive line pass blocked. They got absolutely manhandled by USC's front. You saw the way that the D-line was able to get gashed on the ground. When have you known a Michigan team to let up a 3rd and 17 on the ground? Like, what are we talking about? This is not what we are like. This is not the Michigan brand that Jim Harbaugh handed the keys over to Sherrone Moore to.
So back to the point of the blue collar, and the thing is Michigan has used it, Harbaugh's worn it, everyone has worn it, but that's when they were like undefeated, winning Big Ten championships. Like when they walk into the shoe, they all had it on, and there's nothing wrong with it, but like it's also just the way that he said it too. It's just super cornball like. So it's not. So I don't know, and it's starting the Sherrone Moore era with this thing today. It's starting to lean towards a former Michigan athletic head coach who took over a legendary head coach, and I'm not gonna. I think you guys are kind of guessing what I'm inferring here. I'm not gonna say the name because it hasn't gotten there yet. Moment until he punches someone, yeah, then it'll get there fully. But it's leaning that way. Sherrone. Like Harbaugh was corny. Harbaugh was super corny, but he was good. So it didn't
And
matter what he did.
Was to his core his identity. Like there was no questioning him as a leader, as a person, his style of coaching. And that's the difference between him and Sherrone Moore. Sherrone Moore is like hasn't shown like an ability to be like this hardo, this sicko, like Jim Harbaugh wearing, the gloves on the field. Like that's corny. Like being a coach and wearing the wide receiver gloves on the field, catching passes, that's corny. But you could do it when you're a dog and your players love you. Sherrone Moore seems like he has the love from his players. But I question whether or not they are this tough physical team that we know Michigan to be.
I think what you just said about Sherrone, not the corniness not being his identity. I think the whole team doesn't have an identity right now. You kind of have some, actually it's more just like one piece, but you have like a group of veteran guys. You have some pieces left over from the national championship team in Rodmore, Bredesen, Hausman, and there's one more I'm forgetting. Um, you have some of those pieces, and then you have a whole bunch of young guys, transfers, freshmen that are making millions and millions of dollars, and it just seems like it's just all put together and it's flashes, but we've never had a full 60 minutes of football, really good football from this team yet, and I think they are also struggling as a team perspective from a team identity standpoint.
I do think that that's a good point
Oh my
to make.
god.
Sorry, I had to pull up some of these memes. These memes
That's
are
great.
absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen, they changed all Sherrone Moore's clothing to other sets of clothing to hit the different mantras that people made up. I want my guys to know while they may get torched, I'll always be there to extinguish the flames. That's why I'm wearing this fire suit.
That's honestly such a good analogy because that's kind of what it meant to viewers when he wore that jacket in the press conference. Um, I just feel like bouncing off of you, Ryan, the players don't have enough confidence in these coaches. They seem underprepared and mistaken prone, and they honestly, to me, looked confused the whole game with Sherrone Moore on that sideline. I feel like Sherrone Moore is a nice guy, but he doesn't instill enough fire and confidence in these players as I would say Jim Harbaugh did. And I feel like this is a an agreeable opinion as far as I've seen from the public because just little things like a good play from Bryce Underwood. He comes on the sideline, everyone's like handshaking him and stuff, and Sherrone Moore like gives him a handshake, a pat on the back or whatever. But the opinions on that is like, well, he needs to get right in his ear and tell him what else he needs to do next, not just a pat on the back, not just be his best friend. He needs to instill more of a coaching style on these players, which we're not particularly seeing. And it really seemed like in this USC game, they got outcoached on both sides of the ball and also particularly defensively.
Yeah, I would agree. And I got two more of these in terms of coaching styles that he could adopt if he wants to go the army man route. I just want these players to know that win or loss, I would go to war for each one of them. That's why I'm wearing an army uniform today. And then one last one for the people back home. That's why I'm wearing the chef's whites to remind the team, the fans, to just keep calm and let me cook. So a little bit
It's the
of
best
a
one.
comedic relief right there to hopefully bring us into the end of this Sherrone Moore conversation. As personally, me, I think if you were to put it on a meter of 1 to 10, 10 being hot, 1 being cold, I think he's at like a 6. Okay, like I think it's a little toasty, but at the end of the day, he still has the entire season in front of him. And I think if you go 10-2 or 9-3 with a freshman quarterback, that still is a good season. I know not necessarily in Michigan standards, but I think that having a freshman quarterback and seeing how this whole season has gone, I think 10-2 is still what my ceiling, and 9-3 I think is my floor now. I think you're going to win every game except the Ohio State game. This team just has way too much talent to lose to the inferior teams in the Big Ten.
So you don't think they would go 8-4?
No, I think 8-4 is off the table. I think this team's too good. You saw the way that Bryce Underwood's able to play against inferior opponents, the way he's able to play against the Nebraskas of the world. There's not any other opponent I think it is going to even remotely confuse Bryce Underwood at quarterback other than Ohio State.
I think
I
this Washington game will decide everything. If they look
yeah.
sluggish, if they look like they don't care, then they might add another loss into the mix along with the Ohio State one. But if they come out loose, confident, dropping back and slinging that thing, and they're constantly hitting the quarterback, then they will easily go 10-2. But this Washington game is definitely going to be not necessarily a season defining game, but it will definitely kind of decide if Michigan is going to continue to play loose or they're just going to give up on the season.
And I think this is a great point by JR Get DA. And I think we did talk a little bit about that with Wisconsin, but also we did foresee the struggles. Like we said that Michigan was probably going to struggle a little more than they usually do to run the ball. Alabama couldn't run the ball on them, and I think that Michigan has a very similar level of talent in the offensive line and in their backfield. However, Bryce Underwood did have a good game passing the ball. We said he was going to throw for over 230 yards passing, and he did. He had a great game, and the offense was running through the passing attack, which was good to see in that Wisconsin game in particular. Dan, yeah, you're right. Who would have thought that Indiana would be as good as they are this year? And I know that's just making Ryan absolutely crash out. Haley, what are we talking about next? Why don't you hit me with it?
Well, so you were talking about Bryce Underwood, and yes, like I still think that he's a star player. I do still think that the identity falls in him with Michigan, but he still needs more to work with. I've been saying time and time again, he doesn't have receivers that he can rely on. Once Haynes goes down, your best two players, Underwood and Marsh, after Haynes, are two 18-year-olds. And two 18-year-olds, I don't think, have what it takes to run a whole team, run a whole offensive line. The biggest thing that we're dealing with moving forward is seeing Bryce's growth, which we will continue to see between now and the end of the year, which is going to be beautiful. But he did get beat up pretty bad, and he was limping around towards the end. And I think that he should have been taken out earlier in that game than he was. We saw maybe like one or two clear design QB runs that was really good, but it looks like he's losing his nerve in the pocket, and the hits have made him regress, not as much physically, I would say, because he's a big guy. I think he can take the hits, but more so mentally. I think it's hitting him in a way of like, oh, shit, like this is how it's going on. And I feel like the inability to protect him on a consistent basis is coming at their downfall as a whole.
That's absolutely a great point, Haley. And you can see it. He has the jitters in the pocket. He's chopping his feet too much. He's not willing to stand in there and make some of those throws. His most successful plays in the USC game were all rollouts and passes and him creating. It wasn't him throwing in the pocket. He had that great throw to Marsh on the touchdown over the corner and the safety in the two levels. That was absolutely beautiful. That was textbook placement right there. But other than that, he was very uncomfortable in the pocket all day, and that's because of the offensive line. The offensive line looked good in the run game, but were awful in pass pro. They could not block for Bryce Underwood to absolutely save their life, and that is what kept stopping these drives for Michigan. Also, it's on Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood made a few decisions that were not good decisions. He had Samaj Morgan open on the out route. Instead, he threw the interception trying to hit McCauley in the end zone. He missed a couple throws to McCauley, and he's figuring out that touch. He's figuring out how he's got to place balls. He's still getting used to playing at this level and have to be this elite at his placement. However, I still don't think that Chip Lindsey is doing him the best justice that he could possibly be doing for him to play as best as possible. And I hate to keep harping on the coordinators, but Chip Lindsey is a guy who is known for being a quarterback guru, for working with guys like Drake May, who were able to run a lot of effective RPOs, a lot of effective read option schemes, and lots of explosive plays. Like they were the third best offense in college football when Drake May was there. I'm not expecting that this year out of Bryce Underwood, but I do believe that they have a lot there that they should be a lot better than they are right now.
No, absolutely. And I would say that this was the offensive line's worst game all season, possibly.
Easily.
And the biggest shock for me for this game is that Michigan is supposed to be the team that controls the line of scrimmage. That's the physical team. You know, their offensive line, how they battle in the trenches is kind of like their bread and butter of them. But USC opposingly is supposed to be the team that kind of like beats you with finesse. But what we saw in this game was that, in my opinion, you said that it wasn't too bad, but I really saw that USC bullied Michigan and they were more physically dominant than them.
Yeah, I think to Justin's point where he just talked about, the coordinators and being RPOs, I think that's where Michigan's identity gets confused, especially offensively, is Sherrone Moore said in his introductory press conference, he goes, at the end before he steps off after he's done saying thank you, and he goes, we will smash, meaning they're going to ground and pound, run the rock. And then you bring in an offensive coordinator that is kind of the opposite of that, running RPO, spreading things out. They still run the ball, but it's more of offensive throwing the ball type of scheme. And I think that's where it all gets confused. I mean, you obviously have a quarterback in Bryce Underwood that understands the RPO to a T. Like, this dude is unbelievable in an RPO. Not outside the Oklahoma game, he struggled sometimes, but they're just a confused identity, and I think that they've got to find the right mix of when to run the football and when to throw the ball. But to Haley's point, the offensive line is not up to Michigan standard, not at all. Evan Link, take that guy, put him in a rocket, and shoot to the moon. This guy sucks. I hate Evan Link. As much as Justin hates Samaj Morgan, is how much I dislike Evan Link at left tackle. That's all I got to say on that one. But again, offensively, that offensive line has got to get to that Joe Moore award-winning offensive line standard. And right now, it's just not there. Sherrone's been recruiting that position really, really well. And of course, when your best recruit is out for the year before you even start the season or fall camp, that's going to struggle. But that offensive line's got to be way better.
Yeah, absolutely. They got absolutely dominated by, and you said it too, that by a finesse football team. Like, that is a team that you is known to if you are able to control the line of scrimmage on them, you will win the game, and regardless of if you are an inferior opponent or not. And Michigan had no business on any offensive line or defensive line. And God, I'm getting frustrated again. Because I'm not used to this team getting dominated like that on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting there and I'm texting my dad and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why is Michigan letting up 176 yards rushing to USC? They're not that good.
To a
And they were
walk-on
missing
running back.
tackles. All right, I know this is going to be off topic, but I have to talk. The missed tackles on defense. Holy
Saying the same thing.
shit.
Yeah.
That was so bad. I've never seen Michigan tackle that poorly, other than the TCU game when they lost in the Fiesta Bowl. Every single time, if it was King Miller, if it was Jade Mayava, just slip and tackle, making plays. Mayava had 3 rollouts where he broke 3 tackles and then made a throw downfield for a first down. It happened way too often. We can't be missing tackles, especially our best players. Our defensive liners are our best players. You cannot be missing tackles. Benny, Moore, Barham. Can't be missing those tackles. Cole Sullivan got hurt too. Can't be missing tackles anyway. Hillman missed a ton of tackles. Houseman missed tackles. Everyone missed tackles. It was the worst defensive showing in terms of tackling that I have seen since the Fiesta Bowl at least. And Jay Mayava picked him apart. In a space, and Lincoln Riley called a beautiful game. His game plan against Michigan was literally perfect. He exposed the fact that that Wink Martindale wants to blitz the ish out of you until you can't breathe. And all that Lincoln Riley did was use it against them. They ran counters, they ran screens, they kept the ball in the middle of the field. Because they have more speed. At the end of the day, they have more speed. They were the faster team out there the entire day.
And it shows. They had over 250 yards at the half. And then I just feel like you can tell that USC definitely watched the film and took advantage of Michigan often playing 10 to 15 yards off the ball and overcompensating on blitzes. And it shows, like, in the stats. I don't think that Michigan got dominated, like, stat-wise. But, I mean, physically, yeah, I think that USC bullied them.
Yeah, to Justin's last point of using that aggressiveness on defense. I remember this game. It was the 2018 Indiana game before they went to Ohio State, and Don Brown was the D coordinator back in the day. And my dad and I called out about crossing patterns and just simple crossing routes.
No, I did that. Keep
Okay.
talking.
Okay, good. I was really confused there for a second. Just crossing patterns beating us, and then Ohio State was going to do the same thing. That's exactly what they did. And then this time, I watched a video from one and the only Connor Stallions talking about how screens is what's going to beat this Michigan defense. And then seeing USC do it just gave me deja vu of 2018. And I think Michigan blitzes way too much, especially with Wing Martindale. They blitz too much, and the defense misses tackles. If it's one thing if your defense can constantly make tackles and not miss one-on-one tackles in the open field, that's one thing. But when they can't do that, why are you blitzing that much? And to put your linebackers and corners and safeties on islands like that just sounds like stupid coaching at that point, because they can't make those tackles.
In this game, the defense really just seemed like they were standing right up and letting USC run right past them. Hence all the yards that they got. But also another problem is you were talking about Jay-Sean Barham. He's their best pass rusher, but he just started pass rushing 3 weeks ago. And then your best defensive back is Rod Moore, but he's coming off 2 knee surgeries and only could play 20 snaps in his first game back last week. We don't have enough weapons that we can rely on. Everyone else is young players that still have so much more to develop. Speaking of a young player, Andrew Marsh had a really great game though. This past game, he had 8 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. He definitely showed up big, and he's been someone that I've been keeping my eye on. He's a top 100 recruit, but at the same time, he's no Jeremiah Smith. You know what I mean? Like, he's still not a player.
Nobody's Jeremiah Smith.
No.
Yeah, like, we just don't have enough in the team yet, I feel like.
I don't think that we need that much more. We have some solid weapons. Like, this should be enough. Like,
But the receiving core needs to improve.
Solid, yeah. They definitely need work. They are not Ohio State in terms of their receiving core. They are not LSU, but they have some weapons. Andrew Marsh is very good. Andrew Marsh has now gone a couple weeks with great performances, showing you why he has a weapon on this offense. He is making play after play. And yeah, if a freshman, if a later year Andrew Marsh gets that ball that he dropped on the 1 yard line, I firmly believe that he will catch that. But that comes with time. Like you said, you're leaning on 2 18-year-olds. Another Donovan McCulley continues to make plays. He makes plays, and there are a couple times that Underwood didn't give him a chance to make a play because they were pressing. And when they press up like that because they're committed to stopping the run, Underwood has to hit some throws. And Marsh and McCulley have to make plays. Also, where is Klein? I've heard Klein is supposed to be healthy. Okay, I don't believe that he's healthy because if he was healthy, he'd be getting the ball. Like, am I crazy? Like, is it like should we not be involving one of the best tight ends in the country?
No, I mean, you're right. We should absolutely be including him more. But I asked our one and only Braylon Edwards what he thought of Andrew Marsh, and I was like, "Is this kid like legit? What are we talking about going forward?" And he said that when we look at the next couple of games, the Washington game, and then isn't it Michigan State after the fact? I think Michigan State's the second game. He says if Underwood targets Marsh 5 to 6 times, he will probably come down with, if he gets targeted 5 times, he'll catch the ball 4 times. If he's able to get those targets and they're constantly going up, up, and up, then we'll realize how good Andrew Marsh is. I am a firm believer of Andrew Marsh. I think this kid is going to be a stud. He's not the best Marsh in the state of Michigan, so Michigan State fans, don't get upset with me when we're glazing Andrew Marsh right now. Nick Marsh is better. But Andrew Marsh in that game, and the fact that they went to him on that 50-50 ball right in the end zone that he should have caught and dropped, that just shows us something, that they are trusting in this kid, that they are going to give this kid a shot. And both of you guys have mentioned it. Isn't it kind of crazy that a team like Michigan, and with all the history around them, are putting so much faith offensively in 2 18-year-old kids, a quarterback and a wide receiver? Like, that's just crazy to me. But at the end of the day, these are 2 18-year-old kids that are going to have to make plays down the stretch. And it's only going to get better and better for those two if they stick around for two or three more years.
Absolutely. And I put a dart in Andrew Marsh early in the season when I wanted Samaj Morgan's playtime to go down, and now Andrew Marsh has found that consistency on the outside, and he really is that second weapon that you needed outside of McCulley. Now you need to continue to develop a third, because you saw how one-dimensional this offense became when Justice Haynes went out. Until that huge play by Andrew Marsh, this offense was completely limp. They did no jump, no zip. Marshall, yeah, he had a couple great carries, but at the end of the day, he's not a home run hitter. He's going to rip between the tackles. He's going to get tough yards time after time, but at the end of the day, he's not going to rip off big runs. If you don't have Justice Haynes, which he is questionable for this Washington game, he's an oblique/hip injury. While we're waiting for a bigger update, I doubt they'll have it until Saturday morning. And we'll give you that on the Saturday college football show. Me and Nick will be holding it down this Saturday. It should be a lot of fun. You need to see more. This Washington defense that you're about to play got absolutely pushed around by Ohio State. Ohio State did whatever they wanted to. They got all their players into space. They couldn't guard. They couldn't pass rush. This is where you need to take this chance, get right at home. You need to let your defense cut it loose against Damon Williams, and you need to contain him unlike you contained Jaden Mayava, and you just need to get yourselves back on track defensively because at the end of the day, this team is built on defense. The defense is the better unit. The defense is a unit that you can rely on, and you need to rely on them.
But at the same time, I do think Wink Martindale played a big part in the loss of this game by
absolutely. His play call was absolutely dog shit. He would not stop blitzing. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be rude, but I have a big opinion on this as well. Wink Martindale, Dr. Blitz, has got to chill on the blitz, okay? He's got to relax on his attacks. We need to see him be able to back off. Like that was what made Michigan so good against Ohio State is they stopped playing man. They mixed in a lot of zone. They really confused Ohio State by running different looks and not just blitzing all the time, running all these man blitzes, cover zeros like they did against USC to no success. We need to start seeing them run some more zone, especially the way that this defense is set up. You have so many good safeties. You have TJ Metcalf. You have Rod Moore. You have Hillman. Those are three premier safeties in college football. Use all three of them at the same time. Run some zone looks and maybe take out some linebackers and keep them fresh as well because they missed some tackles this weekend. There's a lot of things that you can do to adjust this defense to make it more successful. I think running a few more zone looks would definitely help this defense a ton.
Yeah, that's why if you look at from 2017, 18, and 19, Michigan got killed against Ohio State because they had the OG Dr. Blitz and Don Brown back there, and the crossing patterns that I mentioned earlier in the show, why Michigan got beat so bad by them. And then you bring in 2020, we waved the white flag and didn't even play against them. And then in 2021 through 2023, you bring in two NFL defensive coordinators, they weren't defensive coordinators, but they were going to be in the future, and they mixed in a ton of different looks, as Justin mentioned. And honestly, I'm putting out a hot take right now. Wink Martindale goes off after the end of this year, and the Ravens, obviously, they suck, right? 1 in whatever their record is. We need to go into Baltimore. Sherrone needs to call up John Harbaugh if he's still got a job next year and be like, all right, who's the nice defensive assistant that you got that's been running your defense that you think has a really good future, and you go pluck that guy? Or you go to LA and you ask Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, who's your defensive assistant, lower level staff, or whatever you want, and be like, who's got a bright future? Who's a guy that you're looking for to make a name for himself in the game of football? And you pluck that. If I'm Sherrone, I'm letting Wink go at the end of this year, and I'm going to either Baltimore, preferably LA, but if I'm going to LA or Baltimore and I'm hitting those guys up, let me know who your guy is, just like Harbaugh did with McDonald and Minter. That's exactly what I'm doing this offseason because Wink, we've done this dance before with Don Brown. I'm not trying to do that again with Wink Martindale and just let Ohio State throw for 60 yards or score 60 points against us again.
I do believe if Michigan does go 9-3 or worse, that there will be some staffer that does get the axe just for someone to be the fall guy. There's going to be someone who has to take the blame. I do think it will probably be Wink Martindale because Bryce Underwood came to Michigan because he does like Chip Lindsey as an offensive coordinator, and the last thing you want to do is upset Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, or Grant Newsome. He can leave too. That guy sucks as offense line coach.
Lots of talk on Wink Martindale not being with us for much longer, but what do we think about the length of stay for circling back to Sherrone Moore? Because I feel like in this new day and age of football, you don't usually get another 2 to 3 years to perfect your craft. I feel like if you're not winning now, then all eyes are on you.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. But the one caveat in that is Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood is going to define this decision for Michigan. If Bryce Underwood isn't good with Sherrone Moore being gone, Sherrone Moore won't be gone. They're not going to risk losing their cash cow that is Bryce Underwood because regardless of how much money that Bryce Underwood is being paid by Michigan, you can bet your ass he's making more for
Mm,
Michigan. And that's important to
definitely.
them. They want to continue to make this. It's a business. At the end of the day, Michigan is a university, but they're a business. They are trying to make money, and the money that they make from making the playoff, the money that they make from NIL or not from NIL, from jersey sales. Like now that they can monetize from these kids, because Bryce Underwood doesn't make all the profits from his own jersey. Then the merch, they got people coming to the games. Their tickets are higher because people want to come see Bryce Underwood. There's a lot of things that go into this decision that are outside of just the football field.
And another thing that will create quite a bit of revenue if they make it to the playoffs and going into this Washington game, this could be a playoff elimination possibly for both teams. There's lots of implications going into this one. Like a loss for Washington wouldn't outright fully kill their hopes, but it definitely makes it more unlikely. And then for Michigan, it would come close to killing their hopes. So looking at next week's game, there's a lot at stake, especially with the absence of our star player, Justice Haynes.
It's a must win. No, they're out if they lose. Like Ryan's already saying they're out, and they. I mean, I don't think that you're out at 10-2. I think you're still have just as good of a shot as any team, especially if you are Michigan, because that is such a brand. However, if they're 9-3, you saw what happened to Alabama last year. Like they are the brand. Like they were the team to put in. SMU is not a brand. They don't bring in the audience that Alabama does, and they went with SMU. So I don't think 9-3 gets you in. You need to go
Mm.
10-2. You're going to have to beat Ohio State now, and we're going to see what this team is made of. You have 7 weeks, no, less than that, 5 or 6 weeks to get ready for Ohio State and get right, and on some of these weaker teams in the Big Ten, because that's the saving grace of this. The Michigan's not playing in the SEC, where they have to play teams with a pulse that are 3-3. Like if this Michigan team played Auburn right now, that would not be a good, like imagine if Michigan, instead of having to go to Michigan State, had to go to Auburn. Like that's
tough.
or instead of going to Maryland, they have to go to South Carolina, who's 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
Play Lenore Sellers. Ooh.
Yeah, we are lucky that we're in the Big Ten and we get to beat up on the Maryland's a solid team. Like Maryland's no joke. Like Washington's a solid team, but they're not Auburn and they're not South Carolina. I really, really am thankful that we're in the Big Ten, because this Michigan team is going to be able to inflate their win total. They're going to be able to win against some bad opponents, and you're going to be able to give Bryce Underwood the opportunity to play his way into getting better. That's where you also, especially if Justice Haynes is out, you got to let this thing open up. You got to let this offense breathe. You got to start throwing the football. You got to let Bryce Underwood make mistakes, get comfortable playing in the pocket, making throws on time, hitting his receivers in stride. That's such a big key to producing explosive plays, because you're not going to be able to get any out of the run game anymore outside of Bryce Underwood on some design QB runs, because Marshall doesn't have breakaway speed. Like you're going to need to start. And in the first half, like I didn't really have an issue with the play call like that like
No.
I thought maybe on the first drive and the second drive, like they started a little stale by running the ball twice in a row and throwing the ball twice in a row. And like I thought that was really predictable. Like once they did ran the ball twice, I was like, all right, they're gonna throw the ball the next 2 times. Like it just gets to a point where you can't be that repetitive as an offensive coordinator. However, I thought they did a great job at producing open receivers for Bryce Underwood and allowing him to have some pretty easy reads to make some pretty easy completions.
I think for again Washington, they got a really good quarterback in Damon Williams and a nice little mobile QB and everything. But again, if we put so much into the travel for Michigan going to USC, then we've got to factor in the travel for Washington coming into Michigan this week. And Washington, I don't believe won a road game at all last year.
They did not. They didn't win one road game last year.
And so that's definitely a play factor. As much as I like Jed Fish, especially with his time here and what he's done at other stops, I think if we're gonna play a factor, or if we're going to have to factor in the travel, we've got to do it with Washington, and I think it is gonna play a factor, especially for the Huskies against Michigan. And Michigan, I think Illinois rushed the field, and I'm sure that it's definitely, as much as Sherrone gave USC bulletin board material last week with saying, "Oh, it's only sold out because Michigan's here." Even Michigan fans weren't even there. It didn't look like
Hmm.
Michigan is definitely going to have that Washington sick to their stomach from what happened last year. Like Washington rushed the field after they beat Michigan last year, and that was a really bad Michigan team. They had Jack Tuttle or they started with Orgy, and then they ended with Jack Tuttle, who ended up fumbling and I think throwing a pick. So
I was at that game. It was
were you
absolutely
really?
excruciating to watch. Yeah, it was so brutal. But
Oh, I feel bad for you. That was a
Tailgate
rough
was sick.
watch.
Husky Stadium was sick, and I mean, everyone was like, "Oh, like yeah, you guys got the important one," and I was like, "Yep, would have rather won the big one than won this BS,
Right.
expedition game in the middle of the season."
But yeah, no. If this is because I'm marking it down on the prediction that Michigan was losing to Ohio State, and that's why I said Michigan's eliminated from the playoff because they're currently sitting at 4-2. But if they show some life, if they show me something different than what's gone on in the first 6 weeks of the season, and they take care of business against Washington. Again, Justice Haynes is a big part of this
Hmm.
because if Justice Haynes is not there, let the 5-star. Let the 18-year-olds. Again, I'm letting an 18-year-old decide my mental health for a week. That's just crazy to
Literally.
think. But I'm letting the 5-star in this game, and I'm letting Bryce Underwood drop back. I'm slinging that thing. I'm throwing that thing 35, 40 times. And if they lose, you know what? We let the $12 million man go down swinging.
I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing for that game is Michigan's ability to keep Damon Williams and Jonah Coleman, the running back, in check in the ground game. I think if those two things happen, then Michigan can come out with a win against Washington.
I hope that Washington's
I
not
think
looking
there's
at
no
that
chance
John
that we
Mateers
lose.
film.
I think there's no chance that we lose.
I just
So
hope
I was going to ask if we should get into our picks since we're kind of talking about them already.
Well, I just want to ask Ryan one question. So, Ryan, it seems like you believe that we are going to lose to Ohio State again in November 3rd, 29th. Is that correct?
yeah, and it's crazy for me to even think because I've thought about it. I'm like, if the 2023 B team beat the national champions on the road, what even makes me fathom like what I can't even fathom Michigan losing to Ohio State anymore because of what happened last year and the years prior. However, I think it was because I had high expectations, not high expectations for Michigan to start the year, but I had expectations of them just to make the playoff. And I was
Mhm.
saying 10-2, lose to Oklahoma, lose to Ohio State. I thought they were going to lose to one in the middle. USC I thought was going to be really tricky. Nebraska was going to be really tricky. But it was just the way that the game looked. And it was kind of, I have the feeling right now, as I did it after the Texas game last year, is we got our asses beat. Like they dominated everything that was Michigan football, and it's just the way that it looks. And if Michigan lost by a field goal or a touchdown, maybe 10 points, then I would feel much more confident going to Ohio State. But it's just the way that it looked, and that's what has really got me depressed right now.
But
So,
you
so are
never
you
know
ready?
with the rival game.
Are you
It,
ready for when Ohio State sits their starters because they're already in the Big Ten title game and they
that's
don't?
not happening.
Are you sure? Are you
That's
sure? You're telling
that,
me if they're undefeated going into that game and they have already had the Big Ten title game locked up, the Big Ten title locked up, that they're not going to rest their starters?
dude, they
'Cause
are not doing that. It is Michigan, Ohio State. They heard everything. Which, by the way, Ohio State, you're welcome for beating you because if they don't lose that game, if Michigan loses and you win, you're not winning the night. I'm firmly believing that. So you're welcome. But they are not doing that in a rivalry. If that's the
Yeah.
fact, if Ohio
All
again,
right, we'll see.
Jeremiah
We'll
Smith,
see, man. Their schedule is at Wisconsin, Penn State at home, at Purdue, UCLA at home, Rutgers at home, and then at Michigan. I mean, they are going to be undefeated going into that game. I could definitely see them resting their starters because they have already proven they care more about national championships than they do about beating Michigan.
no, they're because again, as much as we are as Michigan fans, as much as we say or people say we're a cult, Ohio State is way more of a cult than Michigan is. And if Ohio State loses that game again to Michigan, and if they rest their starters, again, they'll be calling for Ryan Day's job again, and then they go on and win the national championship, which is deja vu again. But there is no way that Ohio State is going to rest starters. That's very Neil of you, Justin. Very Neil of you.
Did we lose Justin?
It's a weird look right now. It's like it's frozen. If it's like he
It's
just got like
frozen
a
to
very
his devious laugh.
yeah. He was like
Yeah, just
caught in the.
frozen like devious laugh.
It looked like the Joker for a second.
Yeah, literally.
But that was very Neil of you, Justin.
Why thank you. Why thank you. All right. Well, going into this Washington game, and yes, we'll get to our picks in just 1 second, Haley. But I do think it's important to kind of profile this Washington team a little bit, tell people what they are getting into this week, against this one, because this is a pretty solid Washington team. Like this is a team, I think that they're going to be, an 8-4, 9-3 team, especially when all these teams have to travel to play them, and they're going to go on a huge winning streak to end the year. They got Damon Williams, really solid mobile quarterback. He can sling it. He was throwing the ball all over the field against Ohio State. If they were actually able to capitalize in the red zone a couple times, that would have been a very good game. However, their offensive line isn't great. Their defensive line can be pushed around. Their corners aren't great. Outside of the quarterback position, there's no other necessarily elite talent on the field outside of Gonzo Boston, though their wide receiver. I'm not afraid of this Washington team. I think Damon Williams is very good. However, the D line, when they're at home and they're rested, I believe is going to be able to manhandle him in the backfield, not allow him to escape, and be able to contain in a way that they have not been able to against the mobile quarterbacks of Mateer and Mayaba. On defense, on offense, I think that we're going to see Michigan be able to run the ball, and we're going to let the run game establish the play action and allow Bryce Underwood to uncork it a little bit, get some easy completions, get some confidence, hopefully in the pocket in particular, because that's where Bryce Underwood really needs to take that next step.
Yeah, I don't care how this game's won. As long as Michigan wins the damn game. They could win 2-0 off a damn safety. They could win 99-90. They could win 31-10, which I got a feeling that's gonna be my prediction. No, 31. Demont Williams will still cook. 31-17 is my prediction. Wolverines are going to get it done. Again, I can't read any of these chats, but Wolverines will get it done. But again, I don't care how it looks. If they decide to run the ball the whole game and they win, and they decide to throw the ball the whole game and win, don't care how it happens. Just win the damn game and then move on to little brother next week against Sparty.
After this USC loss, that's the exact same mentality that I have. I just need them to win. I don't care how.
Damn straight.
They're gonna win. They're gonna look good doing it, and they're gonna absolutely punch Washington in the mouth. It's going to be absolutely beautiful, in my humble opinion. Well, in my other humble opinion, I have no picks from last week. We apologize also for no episode. The Tigers took precedent, and we were unable to find another time where we could meet and all do things because we all have very busy schedules. However, we will update you on the current picks that we are at. Hold on, I'm finding it. All right. I am 22-9. Haley's 19-12. Ryan is 16-7. We're all buzzing.
Ooh,
We're
we
all
got a
getting
6 and a 7 in there. I'm fine with that.
All right. So we're to lead it off. I love this game. Garrett Nussmeier and LSU travel to Vanderbilt to take on Diego Pavia in a 10-17 matchup. The number is Vandy minus 2.5.
This one's right on the fence. This is going to be a really good game. And then the loser of this one probably will also not have eligibility to make it to the playoffs.
I love when there's bangers at noon. Bangers at noon are elite.
And there's a lot at stake in LSU and Vandy. LSU is number 10 right now, and Vandy's number 17, if I'm correct. But like you said, Vanderbilt is favored. Oh, geez. I mean, Vanderbilt They have Diego Pavia. Offense, it was even better, or it's even better this year than it was last year. And you can tell that all of their schemes are working like pretty consistently. Their run defense has been pretty average comparatively to LSU. Their defense has struggled to, or their defense has struggled a little bit. Offensive concerns, but they got the run going in their last game against South Carolina, I want to say. They do have an elite secondary, though, in AJ Halsey and Tamarcus Cooley. They've been outstanding in preventing deep shots. Also, Harold Perkins is playing this time, and he didn't play last year, and he's very good at defending the edges, so that's a big difference for them this year. Oh my God, this is going to be so close. Okay, I'm going to give this one to LSU.
So as people have known, I'm a very emotional picker. And there's two factors going into this game. One, I highly dislike Brian Kelly, even though he was a CMU, or he coached at CMU. And JB knows exactly where I'm going with it. Shout out you, JB, and I'm also going with Vandy. I have another reason. I made a video a couple weeks ago on my TikTok about how Vanderbilt should go cheer on baseball after they lost to Alabama. A couple of Vanderbilt fans decided to go in the DMs of my TikTok account, and I was able to chat with them a couple times. And one of them I've been chatting with on the frequent, and he said Vanderbilt plus 2.5 or minus 2.5 is the move. So you know what, Vandy? Even though I pissed you guys off, and you guys have been pissing me off, I'm going with you, Vanderbilt. Go Commodores! We're rooting for football until spring.
There we go, Ryan. Way to get in there with those Vandy fans. I'm in there with you. Give me the Commodores. Give me Diego Pavia.
I'm sending this to
Diego
him.
Pavia masterclass. Okay, you're about to see why he's him. Everyone knows I'm an LSU hater. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. Still, I think that their offense is just broken. They literally can't move the ball effectively. When Vandy plays at home, they jump on you early. They get out to nice leads that they did against Alabama, and they're able to kind of just sustain you off for long periods of time just by playing a nice gritty style of football. I'm taking Vandy here. All right, keep it going down the slate. A lot of SEC games, okay? SEC games are nuts this week. No
Okay,
apology.
but wait, to respond to that, I know, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I just think that if LSU can find the run game against Vandy, and I think I said that LSU's defense was bad. That's not what I meant. Their defense is good. It's greatly improved a lot. If that defense can keep Diego Pavia from doing what he's doing and find their run game.
Holy comment.
That's a great comment.
I don't think they're gonna find the run game. I'm so down on LSU. I'm sorry, Haley. I don't mean to be.
No, don't apologize because I won't be apologizing when they win.
All right. Okay, Haley, come to play.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, going down the SEC slate, continuing to Oklahoma, traveling to South Carolina to take on Lenore Sellers and the Cox. All right, OU 5.5-point favorites. Haley, who you got?
I have Oklahoma in this game, but the big question is how healthy is John Mateer? Because even though he was back in that last game, he still had some, I would say, uncharacteristic interceptions, and him running the ball, it still looked a bit more tentative than what we're used to seeing in John Mateer. So I think a lot of this falls in him and his health. Like, he says that he's healthy, but what is his version of healthy? You know what I mean? That front seven is definitely going to go after Lenora Sellers, and if they can contain him, then I believe that they have it. Looking at South Carolina, obviously we have Lenora Sellers. He's great. I think he gets a little bit of mojo early on, but at the end of the day, he'll have to win the game from the pocket, and I think that Oklahoma can keep him from doing that.
This is it's a really ugly game. I don't really want to pick it because of the whole Mateer thing. However, I wish I had my cowboy hat down here. Because I would have absolutely gone Boomer sooner. I really like Oklahoma's defense. I think they're going to control Lenore's
Minus
Sellers.
5.5. Devil's
Yeah,
number.
Yeah, I'm taking 5.5. We're taking
Ride with
Boomer.
the devil.
We're taking Boomer sooner. I don't care anymore. We got Oklahoma. if they're gonna make the playoff at this point, they gotta win these games, these ugly games, especially with their quarterback that's banged up. But you know what? He still threw for like 250 yards, I think, in that game of tier. But I'm going Boomer.
Give me South Carolina plus
He just wants
five
to
and a
say go
half.
Cox again.
Lenora Sellers absolutely carrying the boys on his back. Mateer does not look healthy at all. He does not look ready to play. He looks rusty. You're going to travel to South Carolina, who's going to be that like their season's on the line. Like they have no chance if they lose this game. Like this is a must-win game for South Carolina. They're desperate. They need it. Lenoris needs it for his draft pick capital. Give me the Cox plus 5.5. I got a feeling, and I'm also so back. I'm so hyped, dude. What a great slate of football. We're gonna keep.
You just picked South Carolina so you could say go Cox one more time.
Nope. I genuinely think that they're gonna be better. I like they like. You need to run the ball effectively to win road games, and Oklahoma cannot. They are literally allergic to running the football well. That's
Oklahoma for you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Couple more ranked matchups because let's get this electric card. Tennessee travels to Alabama. Alabama favored by 7.5 points. Haley, Vols are tied.
I'm going with the Tide, but that's not to say that both teams haven't been riding on a lot of momentum offensively. So this is definitely a big opportunity for both, especially having star quarterbacks on both teams. But like I said, yeah, I'm going to give this to Alabama. I don't know. I just like Ty Simpson better, I guess.
Ty Simpson
I think
is a dog.
pass rush is their biggest weakness. Like they don't really get after the passer well. And yeah, but the secondaries on Tennessee aren't good.
Yeah, this one is actually I was actually talking about this game with my dad and my Tennessee uncle earlier in today, and this is the battle for Dixieland Delight, my favorite song in college football. And I always root for the Vols. And week 1 we said that Alabama was dead. Everyone said Alabama was dead. However, they
I didn't.
somehow
No. I said it was too early to. No, don't put that on me. I said it was too early to tell.
the
The
national
first game
media,
of
the
the
national
season.
media, the national
Yeah, they
media
all
said,
gave up hope when they lost.
but you know what? They somehow resurrected themselves. In Alabama in Bryant Denny Stadium, going to get the dub. They lost last year, and I'm taking Alabama on this one. Even I think they're like 7.5 or something.
Seven
I
and a
think
half.
still, I'm taking the Tide. Don't give a piss about nothing but Tide.
Tide belt to ass. They're going to absolutely roll Tennessee. This 7.5 is gonna be an easy cover. They're gonna come out firing. Tennessee is not going to be able to stop their passing attack. It is the best in the country. It maybe outside of Ohio State, but it's right there. Like they are a absolutely elite unit. They show you it every week in and week out. All right, this one stings, but USC travels to Notre Dame, take on the Irish. Notre Dame, an 8.5 point favorite against the newly ranked USC Trojans.
I'm gonna give this one to Notre Dame. You have CJ Carr, Jeremiah Love. They have even more balance than last year, and they have so many options in the receiving unit overall. And they're third in the nation in receiving grade, just in general. So they can really make those plays and get the ball running. USC, obviously, we just watched them play. Their offense is great. Jaden Maeva is great. I didn't think that their defense was great, but I mean, I don't know. That game against Michigan just pisses me off. But that doesn't mean that they're going to beat Notre Dame in this game. This is their toughest matchup yet for at least for the USC secondaries. So, and I'm still trying to determine like if USC isn't just one-dimensional.
Yeah, this is one spot away from my nightmare matchup in college football ever. That was the 2025 national championship game, Ohio State Notre Dame. I absolutely despise the Irish. I hate Marcus Freeman. I hate everything about Notre Dame. They just suck. Join a damn conference. However, Notre Dame will probably win this game anyway. 8.5, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Notre Dame will win by 10 plus. And also, Notre Dame needs this. Because if Notre Dame loses, they're out of the equation. And I
Mm-hmm.
get it. They played against 2 top 5 teams now to start, or they lost against 2 top 5 teams now to start their season. However, the Irish, in desperation mode, absolutely need it. They're going to get the win.
Notre Dame's just a better version of Illinois. USC's got to travel across the country to play them. Give me Notre Dame to roll. CJ Carr's been playing great football since the first 2 weeks of the season. I think that's going to continue. Last game before we get to Michigan, Washington. Ole Miss travels down to Georgia to take on the Bulldogs. Chanablis versus Stockton. Elite matchup. 5 versus 9.
Yeah, so Trinidad Chambliss is not the type of quarterback that you want to give time to operate. So I think that's definitely Georgia's biggest fear. But at the same time, they have an advantage because they're getting a home game. You're going to see the run game pick up and their offense be able to put up points. In my opinion, I think that they're going to be able to put up points in bunches. Overall, this game is about generating production on the ground. And besides Trinidad Chambliss, I feel like Ole Miss is just not as good as people make them out to be. The run defense isn't good, and I think that they're overrated. So I'm giving this to Georgia.
What's the spread? I didn't hear it.
8.5.
8.5. Jeez. To Georgia?
Yep.
Damn. Do I go with the receding hairline or do I go with the Michigan kid? Yeah, I'm gonna go Georgia. Give me the receding hairline in Georgia. I think they're just better than Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin in big spots doesn't go very. He's the James Franklin of the SEC.
Yeah, this reeks of just a Georgia blowout. Like they already lost at home once this year. They're gonna be out for blood, especially at home. And like you said, Haley, this Ole Miss run defense is not great, and Georgia's running game is elite.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Georgia's gonna find a way to pound the rock on them all day, do whatever they want on offense. Stockton will do his thing, and Georgia's gonna roll to a victory. So mostly the same picks from us this week. Not a very interesting week from us, can't lie. But hopefully that means that we all have a good week.
Hopefully.
Don't sound so excited to be having the same picks, guys. Goddamn. Anyway,
it's more fun when there's some spice,
It is. There definitely is. But there'll be spice on Saturday as Michigan takes on Washington at noon, and Michigan is favored by I forgot the number.
I think it's 6.5.
Only 6.5, really?
I think that's what it was.
It is 6.5. I'm gonna go first because I feel like it. I'm gonna cut the line here. I'm gonna take Michigan minus the 6.5. I feel like this is a buy low spot for Michigan. I think they are way better of a football team than Washington is. Just through and through, I think Washington is as one-dimensional as they come. Damon Williams is their offense and their defense and their special team. If he's not playing well, then they are going to lose. And I'm going to take Michigan minus 6.5.
Yeah, like you said, really the main focus is on Damon Williams and just Michigan being able to keep him in check in the ground game will be their biggest success. So yes, I'm giving this game to Michigan, but I just wanted to reiterate the concerns that I have with them. Sherrone Moore said that Justice Haynes is questionable. We don't know if he'll be in this game. They don't have a great receiving core, in my opinion, besides a couple. Bryce Underwood still has some growing pains, of course. And like I was just saying, I don't think that there's enough weapons for this team to drop back and throw the football. To rely on the pass game, they're going to have to rely on the run game, but they are better than Washington. But I just wanted to conclude with that because those are definitely things that I will be keeping an eye on for the rest of this season.
I don't care, Michigan. Just win the damn game. Do I think they cover? Probably, but just win the damn game. I don't care how they do it.
Probably.
Well, that will be it for Woodward Wolverines. We will be, well, not we. I will be back with you on Saturday with Nicholas Koloff covering the Michigan game, pregame watch party, and postgame show. Give yourself, people. And thank you for joining us. Smash that like button for us. We appreciate it. It's all we ask for. You're already here. It takes 2 seconds. Be a friend, tell a friend about the stream if you really want to. But at the end of the day, we like our community. We appreciate all of you for being here. So that will be it from me, Justin Scott, from Haley Scott, and from Ryan Witzke. We will catch you next Tuesday. Peace.
Peace. Ooh, I get confetti.